you got it with the protesting. Why are you not standing up with your Latino and Somali community? You say, how's the devil?
This is the house of God, and we are worshiping.
Department of Justice is investigating the anti-ICE protesters who disrupted services at a church in Minnesota over the weekend.
But the state's attorney general claims the demonstrators and journalist Don Lemon, who was with them, did not break the federal law the DOJ is accusing them of. Doug Lazater joins us live from Washington with all the details. Hi, Doug.
Carly and Todd, good morning. This was an extraordinary escalation of the protests in Minnesota, the storming of a church. Now, here's how this played out. As former CNN host Don Lemon joined with protesters who believed one of the pastors at a church in St. Paul had connections to ICE.
We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here to worship Jesus. Yes. That's why we're here. Yeah. Okay, that's why we're here. Okay. That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
and love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them as a Christian?
No one is willing to talk.
Minnesota's attorney general says protesters who stormed that church did not violate what's called the Federal FACE Act, but the Justice Department may not see it that way.
What you saw there was anti-Christian, anti-law enforcement rioters storming a church in this country, and that's a violation of law, and we are absolutely investigating. Our Civil Rights Unit has already sent experts out to Minneapolis today. The Civil Rights Unit, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the FBI, DHS is investigating this because what you saw the fear in the eyes of the members of that church.
Now, Lemon, meantime, defended his actions, saying this in a statement: "It's notable that I've been cast as the face of a protest I was covering as a journalist, especially since I wasn't the only reporter there. That framing is telling. I stand by my reporting." Lemon has said that racism is a part of the ongoing immigration enforcement efforts. He has also said that some of his critics have a sense of entitlement based on white supremacy.
This breaking just a moment ago, the office of Minnesota's governor, that's Tim Walz, just responded to the federal probe into what went down at that St. Paul church. The spokesperson says, quote, "The governor has repeatedly and unequivocally urged protesters to do so peacefully. While people have a right to speak out, he in no way supports interrupting a place of worship." Fox News legal editor Carrie Orban is with us now. Carrie, we flagged off the top of the show that, the governor had not weighed in yet, had not said anything publicly about what went down over the weekend. What do you make of his response?
Oh, well, he knows this is a big problem. Anyone looking at that video, and if you come from a legal background or perspective, you immediately think, oh, there are some federal crimes potentially taking place here. They're interfering in people's right to worship or in their right to exercise their faith. There's a federal statute that prohibits conspiring with someone to interfere in their right to exercise their religion. There are a number of federal statutes that the Civil Rights Division at the Department of Justice could pursue, and it sounds like from the statements they're putting out on X and some of the interviews they're doing that they are in fact pursuing those.
Let's put those, sorry, Carrie, while we're having this conversation, let's put those up on the board so that folks at home can see these are the laws at play that Carrie just mentioned.
Yeah, so it's the FACE Act, which to a large degree refers to abortion clinics, damage to religious property, obstructing worship, conspiracy against rights, conspiracy to defraud the United States. Missing out of this, I guess, is just simple trespassing, which would be a state crime.
State crime, that's right. Yeah, that's right. And on the FACE Act, yes, it's known to be a law that is enforced in the abortion context. But there is that big church piece of it. And if you remember the context for that, that was the compromise with Republicans back in the 90s when they passed this. There was this law, they wanted to pass law to protect people's access to abortion facilities. Republicans said, okay, we'll do that, but only if you you present the same kind of protection of access for churches, which is why we have that. That was the Hatch Amendment. Look, there's that federal statute that I think is very clear, obstruction of persons in the free exercise of religious beliefs. That's U.S. Code, that's 247. You put that up there. And so I don't know what these people were thinking. I really don't. Like this one really gets to me because we obviously hold freedom of religion very sacred in this country. It's our first freedom. It's why our country was created. And so we take protecting that very seriously, especially the Civil Rights Division at the Department of Justice. And they have a plethora of federal statutes by which they can pursue their investigation and possibly bring charges.
Can I say this though? We were protesting in our neighborhood last weekend. There was an African-American Marine vet who came up to us and he was livid at you, saying that he swore an oath to the Constitution and not to any group of thugs. And he is appalled and he is so angry that this is being done in the name of our country. And he made a point to come up to us and say to keep protesting because this is not what trained military people should be doing.
Right, but you're throwing race into it, right? Let's throw race out of this. That's the whole thing. It's divided. We have yet to say anything about race.
Hey out there, this is Buzz with TheSurvivalBuzz. So it appears things are getting just completely out of control, especially there in Minnesota. Ever since that shooting happened, things have just gotten worse and worse and worse. And the political divide just keeps building more and more. Now you have this anti-ICE protest going on in this church in Minnesota. And there's talks of all these investigations going on into these people that were there protesting, violating people's rights. And I would say on both sides of the aisle, things are just getting way out of control. And it's honestly getting to the point, there's so much social unrest going on. And it seems like that's the hotbed right now is Minnesota. But I'm pretty certain that things are going to start building up all across the United States eventually, especially in the blue cities. And the more that this stuff builds and grows and the more politically divided everybody gets, they can't agree on who's at fault, whether this person's rights are being violated or this person's rights over here are being violated. At this point, everybody's rights are being violated. And call me a conspiracy theorist, but isn't it kind of odd ever since all the Epstein stuff was starting to roll out, that ever since then it's just been complete chaos going on out there. And you don't hear any more about that anymore now, do you? And this is all orchestrated, if you ask me. All of this violence, all these protests, everything going on. I'm sure there's quite a few paid actors out there. This just reeks of the January 6th stuff that happened. And man, like I said, I can only foresee things getting worse. And if they get enough social unrest and the divide gets crazy enough, they can bring in martial law, which is, I'm sure, what they want. And these people in this church, man, if you really watch those videos, those people are terrified. And living here in the South, at least here in Oklahoma, I can't really speak for everywhere else, but here, I've gone to a lot of churches here. I've worked in churches doing security. And most of the churches here have their own security teams, if not people that are carrying in the sanctuaries and things, or both. And that stuff would not fly here. And I realize up north there, especially in Minnesota there, it's a very blue state, a very liberal state. But eventually, if enough of this stuff goes on, somebody's going to fire the first shots. Somebody's going to get really hurt on top of the people that have already been hurt, the people that have already been shot. And there's just no good outcome to this. And you really shouldn't be taking a side on all this, but I can tell you this, you should be armed at all times, and you should be proficient in using your firearm and have the ability to protect yourself. And just because you're in a house of God, just because you're there worshiping or whatever, it really shouldn't matter, man. Jesus did say to turn the other cheek, but he did not say be a doormat. And we are supposed to protect ourselves and protect our loved ones and protect people in our congregation even. This stuff is only going to amplify and get worse and worse. And the worst thing you can do right now is help widen the political gap. And I honestly think that's what our federal government wants at this point. You see all the madness going on over in Iran, and slowly things are building up to that here. I honestly do believe that. And it's been a long time coming, and there's been telltale signs along the way over the years and different protests for different things that's happened. But this absolutely could be the breaking point. This nonsense has just gone too far. And now with the ICE agents, I try to stay away from picking sides on all of this. I get that there's a lot of illegals here, and I'm all for, immigration. I'm all for people coming over illegally. That's not what I'm saying. I honestly think that if you legally go about it and you go through the system like you're supposed to, it should be perfectly fine to become American, just like my ancestors, yours, even a lot of us, that's what made this nation great. But it's gotten so politically divided from all this orchestrated stuff that our own federal government has done over the years. You had Biden in office and just flooding the border with illegal immigrants. And then now you get somebody else in office, you get the Trump administration in there, and now let's throw them all back. And we have militarized these ICE agents. And I honestly, like I said, I try not to pick sides, but I don't agree with a lot of this stuff going on. Show me your papers. Does that sound familiar? And that's exactly what's starting to happen here in the United States. And like I said, I'm all for legal immigration. I don't think people should just jump the border. I don't think it should be just something given to anybody, because obviously there are a lot of illegals and things that are terrorists or really bad people that have committed serious crimes, murder, rape, whatever it is in their other countries, and they're not a product, they're not something good for our society over here. But there again, our own government has created and orchestrated all of this, and I truly believe that. And like I said, I hate to be the conspiracist here, but it's awfully convenient that all of this is happening right after all the Epstein things came out. And they are leading this in any direction they want to. And the people behind the curtains that are running all of it are, I'm sure, getting a good laugh. And as long as we keep staying divided and not holding hands as Americans and trying to help each other out and seeing what is really going on here and seeing that our own government is out to get us and cause this divide and cause all this social unrest just so they can swoop in and save the day, the Hegelian dialectic like I'm always talking about, that's exactly what is going on here. And I'm so sick of this being a political thing. I'm so sick of people defending Trump or defending Biden or trying to put you in a box like that's all you are, because that is something new that's happened, especially over the last decade or two. I didn't grow up seeing all of this. Politics and religion were something there for a long time, and still today people try not to talk about, but it's become impossible. It's become impossible. It's become people's identities, and we need to get away from that. We really need to get away from that, and we need to all be Americans and stand up for what is right. We should have freedom of speech. We should be able to express ourselves in a legal way and not hurt each other. But pretty soon, the federal government, they're gonna swoop in and stop all of this. We're not gonna have a voice anymore. And pretty soon, we're not gonna have the ability to carry weapons and things like that. And that's exactly what they want. The New World Order, that's what's rolling in. You need to get up to date, man. If you honestly still think this is a political issue, you are sadly mistaken. You guys stay vigilant out there, stay armed, and protect your families. God bless y'all, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Later.